Today on the show, we have Dr. O'Laughlin, who is a German American like myself, although she was actually born in Germany. I was just born to the descendants of German immigrants. We talked a lot about what that means, what it means to have German heritage, and then we also spoke about what it's like to be an oncologist and the heavy weight that oncologists have on their shoulders. So hopefully you enjoy. Cheers. So walk us through the journey from Germany to Florida. What happened there?
Okay, so I was born in Germany, went to school in Germany. Everything was good. My mother died when I was 20, and everything changed. Like it was like the ground was pulled out from under me, and in a sort of strange way or whatnot, I was trying to avoid the whole death thing by just moving to another country and leaving Germany, leaving my mother, leaving everything. Interestingly, I became a pathologist, which how closely can you work with death, right? That is it. We're in business with death, but I didn't really think that through, but it was interesting to me. So I went to medical school in Germany and then met my now ex, but we got friends, husband, who was from the United States. And I thought, okay, let's go to the United States. I came over here, loved many things about the US. I mean, there are these very interesting differences, but it was always a bit of an attempt to leave something behind. Of course, the Germans don't have really great history either. The Holocaust is not a good history to have, but we have it. So that was sort of the initial attempt. But then I also really kind of liked it here. There are many things that you have in the United States that you don't have in Germany. It's an interesting dance of the immigrant, and you stop me at any time you want to, because I can talk about this forever, because
No, go for it.
It's an interesting subject. All right, so when you leave one country and you go into another country, the actual immigrant has a particular loss thing to deal with, because you're basically saying goodbye to one country and hello to another. And if you don't quite work that properly, your kids, the next generations, will have to pay the price for not making that visible. I sort of learned that a little bit the hard way, but I started to work it, which is I just now got around to examining, okay, there is a lot of stuff wherever you're born, wherever you're from, you bring something of that with you no matter where you go, right? If you're
Yes.
trying to ignore that, reject that, not look at this, it'll come to sort of haunt you. I really didn't, I tried to not be German because it was an unpleasant history. And I thought, oh, okay, what if I'm just European, which is what I called myself.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, I got out of the plane in New York City. Everybody's Jewish. All of a sudden, somebody says, "Where are you from?" I am from Europe. I'm no longer from Germany. All of a sudden, that became like, ooh. Thought that was interesting because it's something that had never actually been a thing for me to say, "Oh gosh, what is the deal here?" I
And
thought,
everything you're
okay.
saying, I completely relate to within my own sphere. I've seen it as well. Like my grandfather, he came over in the 50s. He's still alive. He's in his 90s now. And he basically completely culturally converted to being Canadian. He's not like, you know, it's completely different. Just no real connection to the fatherland per se. It's completely gone. So,
Yes, and therein lies the tragedy, if I may say it, because as you said, there's the fatherland and the mother tongue. And when you leave them, what do you do to yourself and what do you do to your kids and the answers of the next generations? And maybe this didn't even start with you, right? There's always kind of a break, a leaving behind, something that didn't get acknowledged. And that did, when you have that happen and you want to be something else, you feel a certain kind of hollowness and you don't really quite belong. one of the things that I always noticed was when I didn't like something in the US, I was German. When I didn't like something in Germany, I was US. It was like
Yeah.
you never really have to show up in your own life because you can always push it off to the next, to the other thing. Right? It was a
Yeah.
very interesting thing, but it impacts you. It presents a certain kind of hollowness, a certain kind of thing, and you're like, okay, how am I going to fill this? Now, you don't sit there. I didn't sit there consciously think about it, but I got into a family constellation work, which really illuminated all of this. But I ate a lot of sugar.
Mhm.
That was, everybody has their drug of choice of how they numb out. Sugar, drugs, drinking, alcohol, TV, exercising, working, you name it. Some of them are more acceptable socially than others, but nonetheless, mine was sugar. I ate a lot of sugar. Ultimately, that sort of caught up with me. But what really kind of was interesting is when I had kids.
Mm.
All of a sudden, and you will never be quite relating to this because you're never going to be a mother,
No, I can
right?
relate to the German heritage, but
Yeah,
not, but
yeah,
not
yeah.
to the
But
mother
but
part.
but but I tell you what, something happens. All of a sudden, you're a mother, and you're thinking, "Oh gosh, mom is back. Now I am a mother. Huh. My mother is sort of like, what do you have as a reference point other than all of a sudden your own mother? If you were a father, it's like, okay, my father is a reference point. Now you may say, I don't like my father. I didn't like anything. I'm going to be exactly the opposite. But you're still using him, her, as a reference point, right?
Hmm.
So then I realized, okay, I am going to have to do some work and bring it back because there were many, many, many very good things that I got from Germany. There's a certain love of precision, like accuracy, quality. There are many things that
Yes. Yeah.
I,
Work
as a
ethic.
pathologist, could really, and I really tapped into it. I just didn't want to quite own it,
Yeah.
right? So, but I'm maybe a little bit off track. You said, how did I end up here? Uh, yes. Is this too much, too little, too whatever?
No, it's all
Ah,
good. I mean, the
yeah.
podcast is it's
Okay.
free. It's whatever you want it to be.
So, well, I mean, like I said, I could go on and on and on about this whole very thing because it is an interesting phenomenon. There are some things that I really loved or love about the States, and there was a certain kind of freedom, a lot not so regimented. And I always noticed it when I went between the countries. When I went back to Germany, I was like, oh, nice. Things are on time. They've got a schedule. They've got a bus and train schedule. And when
Yeah,
on
public
the
transport. Yeah.
schedule it says the train comes at 12:03, it does not come at 12:02. It does not come at 12:04. It comes at 12:03. Love it. Then you go back to the United States. There is no schedule. The bus may or may not come. Who knows, right? So it's a certain kind of laissez-faire about things. But I'm in Germany for a little while and I'm thinking, okay, this is a little rigid. These guys need to loosen up a little bit. So maybe it's a little bit
Yeah,
tight.
you have to follow the rules in this
Uh,
country. It's very
Correct.
important.
Right? Yeah. So you're
Yeah.
always in this thing. And then I go there, I'm thinking, oh, okay, you guys loosen up. Then I come over here, nobody shows up on time. It's just sort of like a free fall. I'm thinking, gosh, they need a little bit of structure here, something. Then I
Yeah.
realized I'm constantly dancing in between one or the other to realize, oh no, both. It's really both. It had me just super curious. And and when you end up acknowledging that and looking at this and sort of working with both and everything that you get, man, is that uh enlivening. And it's just you can't plug into your life any better than that if you embrace where you're coming from.
Hmm.
So then you come to the United States where really basically everybody is an immigrant. I'm like, okay, there's so much great opportunity for diversity, other cultures, things what we could actually really learn from each other,
Hmm.
rather than taking these very differences and hit each other over the head with them. There isn't really a right or wrong about any other stuff. It is how it is. You came with it, you brought certain things. And I find it unfortunate when we use those very things to hit each other over the head. There's really no right way to turn on a faucet, as far as I'm concerned.
Hmm. And then, so now you're based in Jacksonville, Florida. Sort of, what's Florida like, and what's it like working in the medical industry in Florida, especially in pathology?
Well, I couldn't, I mean, I've been around in the pathology field since 19, well, probably 82-ish. So it's been a long
Hmm.
time. Um, I love pathology. It's like the art of working with death in a broader way. I mean, some pathologists, they kind of look at it and they kind of go fine tune, fine tune, fine tune, fine tune. I love the artsy part about it. Like I love looking at tumors. I look at slides, pattern recognition. It's never boring. You got to know a little bit of everything all the time. You're always with other. You're trying to help other physicians navigate the patients, and I love that field. It really suits me, and it's no different. I mean, I was in New York and Connecticut, Minnesota. It's pathology is pathology. Bigger hospitals have more opportunity to do certain things, but at the end of the day, it's the same. For me, it's the same.
Mm.
And I've been in very small places and very big places, and um, yeah, it was always kind of it was the right choice, and it really was. I mean, when my mother died when I was 20, I actually originally wanted to be a musician, and I was in a school that was all music oriented, and it's not uncommon that pathologists have some kind of other interest. Music is one of them. But then my mother died, and I said, oh, I'm going to go into medicine. I was immediately attracted to pathology. I always find
Mm.
myself going down to the morgue, talking to the pathologists. The pathologists are weird creatures. I loved it. They're different, right? I mean, all physicians have their own kind of little quirky things. I always found the pathologists extremely interesting. Um, they had usually a very interesting sense of humor.
Mm.
It's dark, but they knew a lot of stuff, and they had very interesting ways of looking at issues and whatnot. So I've never really, very rarely met a boring pathologist.
Mm.
So
And it, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your hospital, like you're the manager, correct? Or like what would be your title? Like you're some kind of
uh,
managerial title.
yeah, currently I'm the medical director for the laboratory. I also happen to be the department chair of surgery. That's a different. It's not the usual thing for pathologists, but it works here, and we're a small hospital, so it works here. But
Hmm.
so it's basically that's my title, if you will.
And like what is are there any operational hurdles or any interesting stories you want to share from being a medical director for the laboratory?
Well, I love working here, and I love being a medical director. You got to know yourself. I mean, the whole thing about leadership or director is really you got to know yourself, your strengths, and kind of know, they all talk about, or these days they often talk about your zone of genius, right? Have you heard about that? All right, I'm going to talk about this. Well, that's basically your flow state. This is where you're actually what makes you good. I am, for example, not good at doing calculations and number things. And if I had to calculate my brain doesn't go there. It's not good for me. But I
Mhm.
am really good in um, having a big picture view and help people be their best.
Mhm.
By that I mean bringing out the best in people, meaning also my leadership style, which is what I like, is basically saying, okay, we do have procedures. Uh, roll with it. Do your thing. If you have any questions, always feel free to come to me anytime. But you don't have to come back all the time checking it, doing this and whatnot. So, like bringing out the capacities and other people to say, oh, okay, I can make this decision. I can roll with it. I can look at this and I can like, oh, this may be something I might do. Or maybe go step up a ladder, maybe becoming a PA or do something else or finding it actually interesting. That's sort of why I like working in a laboratory, because there are also people there that are not just performing functions, but they're also in a group, or they also have their own story. That's what I like. And being between the departments makes it very interesting and very easy then to have no problems between departments. If you're between in surgery and pathology, there's so often we work together so closely. So if you have one procedure or one person sort of overseeing it, it simplifies everything. It
Mhm.
simplifies. It's just been a really great thing. Now, you can't really do that very easily in bigger places. It would be much harder, but it
Sounds
works
like a
here.
startup. That's like Caesar
Well,
Health. We're super lean and mean. Just
yeah. Well, in its own way, we're doing our own sort of startup-ish thing, but it's really quite. It works. That's all I can say. It works, and yeah, and your department and your place is only as good as the people that are in it, that are actually allowed to ask questions, a safe environment, and it provides growth opportunities. And the way I see it, both personally and professionally. And if you can have that, if you have that, and people can feel free to ask questions and come to you with anything, and nobody feels like, oh my God, if I made a mistake, I can't go and tell anybody about it, then that's a problem. So that's what I really like about work, being in a hospital and working here, rather than, some people love working from home and just doing their thing. That wouldn't do it for me, because I would really
Mhm.
miss the environment and miss the people and miss, you know, the things and how to resolve them. That's maybe sounds weird, but I like it.
I got a great question for you. We've had a lot of registered nurses on the show who used to work in the emergency room, and we always kind of do bring this up where you're a civilian, you're a normal person, you have zero exposure to death whatsoever. Like you never see people die. You're
Mhm.
completely, it's completely cut out of existence, which in a more natural setting it wouldn't be. What's it like to be exposed to so much death? And do you take it home with you? Like psychologically, does this affect you in any way?
Sure, it does. And I think that I have always been attracted to the idea of death in a way that it's the ultimate equalizer, right?
Yes.
Everybody dies, whether you are rich, poor, yellow, green, whatever. Everybody dies. I love that ultimate equalizer. It's always been attractive to me as something. And when my mother died, I was 20. I chose that field because I wanted to simply know more about it in whichever way I could. Um, I mean, it is a strange thing. Somebody's here and then all of a sudden they're gone. Are they
Mm-hmm.
really gone? There's always this question about it. And the more I studied death, the more I studied life. That was kind of the weird thing. I mean, actually recently wrote a book about this very phenomenon. The more I studied death, the more I studied life. I became sort of like this health and wellness coach through staying curious about the whole thing. And because, that's it's called like the pendulum effect. The more you can go to one side, you can go to the other side. You can really, I really learned a lot about life just by studying death.
And the book's called The Curiosity
Quotient, yes. A renegade,
Quotient.
yeah, quotient, like emotional quotient, curiosity
Mhm.
quotient. How curious are you actually yourself, right? It's kind of like a question of, what is it? And it's more like what really is, it's like tapping into life, asking the question behind, okay, what's going on here? Why am I doing this? Why am I not doing this? What's my trajectory? Do I even stop and ask myself sometimes, why? Why not? All these things. If you don't have at least a little bit of interest, curiosity in yourself, nobody else will,
Hmm.
right? So, I mean, and curiosity just goes with pathology because you look at something and you're like, you need it. You need to have it to say, okay, what is this? Could it be this? Could it be this? How is this? I mean, if you don't have that kind of interest in it, this is not for you. You better work. I better not say you could work and be. I was going to have a couple of examples of where you might be better suited. I will not name those.
Maybe it's for the best.
Yeah, I'm not saying it, but it wouldn't
um,
be. It wouldn't be for me.
so then what does death teach us about life then?
Well, so death is not just physical death. You're in the body. You're not. Death is all kinds of things that are like, well, patterns, ancestral inheritance, epigenetic phenomenon, the way we talk, where we think, where our energy goes, what our body, our character is actually a holding pattern of the body that has kind of made us adjust to some things that we learned from early on that we've done repeated so many times because it was a necessity, because our caregivers wouldn't be having it any other way. Now it became such a habit that you don't even know. You say to yourself, I hear this all the time from clients. They're like, well, that's just how I am. It is not. It is something you have learned in a response to what something you actually needed, but it isn't you. There's no freedom in being that tight, right? And so
Hmm.
so there's no life in it. It's a kind of a deadness in a structure that you have built called body armoring in
Hmm.
response to how your life was. But you don't have to be stuck there. But it's a deadness. You feel it in people that are really stuck. You can tell from some people there, it's kind of like, okay, they're positioned, they're rigid, there's always this thing, and you feel like you're talking to a wall, right?
Mm.
You're talking to a wall, nothing goes in. They have already predetermined what the answer is. They're not actually listening to you because they have already been occupied telling you what it is that they wanted to tell you. So there's no real energy exchange in the conversation. And you know it, and you're like, it's useless. I don't like talking to these people because it's like and people say it, it's like talking to a wall,
Yes, yeah.
right? And that's what it is. They're talking to a wall. And that's painful. It's kind of like you're really literally sitting like you're armored and you're having to protect yourself from any kind of other information that might be useful to you and your life, but you can't let it in for a variety of reasons that were once useful to you, but I guarantee you they're not useful to you now because, and it doesn't mean you now have to go and vote for a different party or go to a different church or whatever, but you have the freedom to choose and not because you're stuck in a box. That's what it is. So it's
Mm.
about life, freedom, energy. And I'll tell you this, if you are a boomer, uh, and you've gone through menopause, which you have not been a boomer and you will never go through menopause, good for you. But that's a thing. I'm telling you, it will take your energy away. And if you don't get curious, and if you haven't really studied any of this, a lot of women just really kind of go down. And I see a lot
Mm.
of people who are like 65-ish, and they count the days until they retire. And I always think, well, retire, what does it mean to you? And then what you gonna do? Just what? It's like, I, and I don't mean it as but you have now no energy, you sit around, you
Mm.
don't get up anymore. And where did your energy go? And a lot of the stuff got locked up in all these detours to the morgue that are you can work with. See, that's the thing. It doesn't have to be that way. But people don't know it, they don't know how to go about it, or they fall into these patterns.
So then it says on your LinkedIn that you're a certified systemic coach. Like what does that mean? Like what is a systemic coach then?
Okay, this is what I was talking about systems. Like, for example, family constellation coaches or what system coaches, right? We all belong to systems. Some
Mm-hmm.
systems are obligatory, like you belong there whether you like it or not, like your family. You have
Mm-hmm.
a mother, you have a father, and that is part of your core family. Whether you know them, like them, doesn't matter. It's part of a thing. From that, you are in a system. You are assigned a particular energetic role. You belong to this system. There are more people that belong to the system. And belonging to the systems has a consequence because there are principles that guide any system: belonging, and order, and the balance of give and receive. When they are out of whack, everybody in the system suffers and
Mm-hmm.
everybody then loses their energy. So, me working this when we started out with this immigration piece, recognizing, oh, okay, I am the immigrant, I am in this system, but I'm also in these systems, and I have been trapped and pulled into something that didn't actually give me the freedom to be because of judgment, resentment, being afraid of, or not wanting to touch something, or have never learned how to, whatever it was. Well, that made me smaller, armored in a way. To that same extent, me as a mother then couldn't give that to my children because you can't give what you don't have. You can't. So the stuff gets passed down. That's what systems are. Interesting thing. These systems go also in corporations, in business, in work. You're in these systems. The whole
Mm-hmm.
dynamic that plays out in your family plays out at work. You look at hospital murders and something. Oh my God, it's the same principle of the immigration thing. If a murder comes and say the new people that come in, they don't acknowledge what was there before, and they
Mm-hmm.
just replace them and say, oh, we're going to do something different and just forget about the old stuff. We're doing a new stuff. What they're doing is they're cutting themselves off from the energy of the old system that might actually help the new system to grow. These systems that don't honor in a certain kind of way what came before and just say, thank you for what you're given me until today. And that's all that it has to be. It doesn't have to be this whole big to do. But you have to acknowledge it and give it a place. When you do this, you can tap into the energy of it. When you don't do it, the new system will not work. Happens all the time. And people say, I wonder why this murder didn't work. Must be
Mm-hmm.
about this and oh, no, 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 no. That is really, really critical stuff. And actually not that hard to do, and also doesn't cost a lot of money. People always think, nah, this sounds a little sissy. Well, not so hasty. I'm telling you, I've seen it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a systemic coach is looking at, for example, things get handed down. If things don't get worked out in a particular time and people or things get excluded, which happens unconsciously and consciously in every system, somebody in the next or following generations will try to bring that back that was excluded in funky ways, such as being like that, paying a debt for whoever was excluded, going to prison for them, never being able to receive money, always losing the money, never getting a promotion, all these things. And you're thinking, why does this always happen to me? And you start looking at the system and saying, now, wait a minute, who before me had a problem holding on to money? Who was always afraid to whatever it was? And you can see systemic influences of things that you would have never thought. But you sometimes people say, "Oh, you remind me of Uncle so and so from," and you've never met the guy, but you kind of like him.
Mm.
That's systemic coaching, which is really, really, really interesting work. And one of the major things that kind of got me interested in this, and I will say has unlocked a lot of energy for me that was kind of bound up in trying to belong to a system. I gave up my sugar thing for sure, because it was one of those belonging to my family kind of thing by eating a lot of sugar. I am like them and I eat a lot of sugar. And I used to weigh almost 300 pounds. And I didn't feel bad about it because I still belonged until I one day sort of realized, okay, that is a weird identity that is not useful. And I don't not belong to my family, and I don't really have to eat a lot of sugar to belong. Now, you see where it was coming from. My parents were in the war, their parents were in the war, and the way they got a little sweetness in their life was through eating a lot of sugar. That was the only thing they had access to, right, after the wars. So that was their way. So the way people bonded in my family was eating sweets. That was the
Yeah.
thing. So, I mean, you can see, and every family has sort of like their own way of dealing with it, but you're still in a system and you don't even know how that's running your life. And then you bring that to work because you're never separated. So whoever you are at home, you are also at work. Now you can say consciously, I'm going to be exact opposite of that, but you're still using the reference point until you work it.
So then you do a lot of coaching then with this systemization, and then what is the thesis, like when you do coaching, what is the end goal? Because you've kind of outlined the problem, multiple problems, not just one, but then what do you do to make the problem better?
Well, you like I was saying, we look at what is. You start with where you are. Now this sounds maybe dumb and simple, but it is not. You have no idea how hard it is for people to say acknowledging what is, to have a look. We start where actually are. What are your influences, your culture, your habits, your practice, whatever it is, everything we kind of look at. And then we kind of work with whatever is the presenting thing. Like people say, oh, I want to have a better relationship with my kid. My kid's given me a lot of trouble, or whatever. And then we start looking at it. Now, this may be a systemic problem that goes generations back. It may have to do with there may be other reasons why it is. So we start looking at it. In this particular case, somebody comes in and says, I want to have a better relationship with my child. Okay. At the end of the day, everybody wants to feel at peace and feel free and have choices. It's a way of looking at health from what I call the matrix, multiple different areas. But it's not like, okay, let's download this thing, eat this program, and that may make it better. Well, maybe, maybe not. But you've never actually really worked how to navigate the actual influences of the thing. Everybody wants to be free. Everybody wants to be at peace. Those are the main things. And people say, well, no, actually, I really want to have a lot of money. Okay, what you going to do with all the money? Well, I want to be free and be at peace. So what else do you have other than your own health, well-being, sense of purpose, and get out of your own traps, right? People are trapped in stories, in things that they believe they can't get out of, or situations they think they can't get out of, or they often hear, oh, it's too late, or things have really changed. The millennials who say, well, you don't really know because everything has changed. Let me tell you something.
Mhm.
1948, June 20, currency reform in Germany. People don't talk about this. We've been through this. Not me, but my parents. On that day, the government said, okay, all the money is worthless. Forget about it. Can't buy anything with it. None of this. Everybody gets sent in the mail 40 Deutschmarks or whatever. And that's it. Everybody starts fresh. Everybody basically wiped out everything, just that. Whoa, that was 1948. It's not that long ago. What did people do with that?
Mm.
They didn't sit there and think, okay, what about my 401k? What about my savings? What about that's gone, right? So
Mm.
that all that stuff was gone, and they tapped into something, which is this navigational piece, and they started building. And then it was called the economic miracle because people tapped into this life force of this resilience. And they did it. My parents did it. My dad was 25 years when he didn't actually get that $40 because he didn't have an address. He had been a POW in the United States and he had just come back to Germany, didn't have an address. So he didn't get that. He had nothing, no money. I mean, nothing. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, you know, that's really kind of impressive when you look at the world as it is right now, the way things were sort of working for the boomers for a long time because we're in this sort of sandwich time is gone for you guys. They're just not there.
Mhm.
And I hear this and I'm like, yeah, the stuff that quote unquote worked for us, that doesn't work for you guys. That's gone. Something else is
Yeah,
there.
I have my own spin on this. I think that uh, younger generations just need to carve out their own life. Like I was born in Toronto, and I mean Toronto physically, it's a nice city. It's got big skyscrapers. It's got parks and trees and stuff, but it's just it's not really that, it's not like the best city on earth. I find it can be a little soulless sometimes, but every single person wants to live there. Every single person will live in a house with like 10 different people just to have that chance to live there. And it's just like go find a nice place, quiet place, maybe get like an online job and set up shop. Not everyone has to fight for the downtown Toronto life. So that's kind of my takeaway. I sort of just I find places to live now that are just quiet and cost effective, and that's it. That's kind of my takeaway.
Yeah, yes, yes. And so everybody has to find what works for them, right? I mean, you have to find that's exactly it. What is just right for you? You have to find that space, right? And so if you're good at navigating it, that's all really great. There's a lot of people that I talk with that find it somewhat difficult.
Mm. I think there's a big herd dynamic. I think younger generations need to be more creative because if every single person is living in like a house with 10 people in Toronto, for example, then it becomes the norm. And it's a no-brainer to not do it and go find somewhere cost effective that's for yourself. But in the end, I think younger generations have just gotten used to kind of it, which is sad, but it's escapable in my opinion.
Well, correct. And so that's why I said, find your own life force. We all,
Hmm.
this is the younger generation's trap. The boomers had their own trap. We all have our traps. Now, It's up to you whether you want to live in a trap or not. Now, the difference between us boomers and the younger generations is simply that you still have more energy for the bullshit for many more years.
I'm ready.
Right? Yes. So that's the thing. And I've had it, I've done it, and now I realize, oh, there are different ways of looking at these things that are much more interesting to me, much more useful. It doesn't mean I have to move to Toronto, for example, right? It's not about, well, not that I like Toronto, so it's not about that, right?
Trust me, Florida is a lot more cozy than
Yeah,
Toronto.
I mean, I like it here. I like the weather, and having been in Germany where the weather really usually not that great, um, I I like Florida.
Yes, I know a lot of Germans like to go to the island of Mallorca. They say it's like
Oh
the
yeah,
18th Federal Republic or whatever. So,
that's where my parents met.
oh, really?
Yes,
That's funny.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Laughlin, we don't keep these podcasts too long. I'm gonna have to jump soon. Like, where can people
Oh yeah.
find your book? Where can they connect with you?
Oh yeah. I mean, you can connect with me on social media. I'm on social media, but you can get on my website www.sabine SABINE hyphen
Mhm.
O'Laughlin OLAUGHLIN.com, or on Amazon, The Curiosity Quotient, a renegade pathologist's detour guide to the morgue. It's about the
Mhm.
detour. Yeah, that's what it is. It's the detour is where the juice is.